Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Teed Up, and it's been one of those where if I've got time, there's a bunch of things I wanted to talk about. You'll see behind there straight away the products of Black Friday. So we've got a nice new Orlando Cole Anthony City edition, complemented by a classic Charlotte Hornets. I'll call it a slam cover issue 1 Larry Johnson grandmama jersey, which I've been looking to pick up for a while. So there's a few things I want to talk about on today's video, and the first one is the New York Knicks. I've seen a few Knicks games this season. I've obviously seen the games against the Magic. I managed to catch the Knicks game against Denver yesterday, so we're recording this on a Sunday. And I know at the start of the season when I did the previews, one of the things I looked at, as I said, I felt the Knicks were a playing team. And my view was that the Knicks would fall in the East, not because they were a bad team. I still felt the Knicks were potentially a good team, just that the rest of the East might have got better quicker. Okay, so what we found was I watched this game, and the Knicks are now sat in 11th, so they're not even in the play-in. We're a quarter of the way in the season. So my question to myself when I was watching this was, I've seen the Knicks play a few times. I've seen them against the Magic. Somehow we've pulled 2 victories out. I saw them against Denver, and are the Knicks a team sitting out, like trying to get in the play-in, still a good team? And from what I've seen this season, sorry Knicks fans, but the answer will be no. I don't think the Knicks particularly are. Something has changed. It just felt flat. I went to Madison Square Garden, I'm going to say 6 or 7 years ago now, and it had that flat feeling then when I went to watch a game. Knicks have obviously got an incredibly passionate fan base. New York's possibly the best city in the world. It's certainly up there for the ones I've visited. But there's something just wrong with the Knicks. So the question is what? And I've been mulling this over today, trying to find an answer, thinking about what's changed. Obviously, Mitchell Robinson's back. My opinion, that should overall make the Knicks better. Rim protector, rebounder, youthful. I saw that as an upgrade. And watching the games, and when I've seen the Knicks, what looks to have changed a lot for me is the effectiveness of Julius Randle. Now, I like Randle. I think he's a player where when he's playing against your team, you won't like him. But when you're actually watching a game as a neutral, I do quite like him. He's got a wide skill set. And I saw the Denver game, and I've seen him against Orlando. And in the losses, I went, this isn't the same guy I saw play last season. So what's happened? What's changed? And the change for me, what I'm wondering, and tell me if I'm wrong here, is the backcourt. It's the additions of Evan Fournier, who I know a lot about as a Magic fan, and Kemba Walker. Now I didn't expect to see vintage Kemba Walker here. I didn't expect to see Charlotte Walker. If we did, this would be possibly a different conversation. Kemba Walker's a player I liked. I've liked watching when he was a Hornet. It didn't work out in Boston, and my opinion was injuries are caught up. But if the Knicks could get Kemba Walker at 75, 80% of the time, the Knicks would improve. But I'm now wondering, when you take him and when you take Fournier, has the ball been taken out of the hands of Randle, making him less effective, less ball dominant? Maybe the play isn't going through him like it used to, because the Knicks look as though they've lost a step. Something's not clicking. And I know Walker's been removed from the rotation. It hasn't worked out. There is the argument he's not a Tom Thibodeau point guard. I can see that. But I expected the Knicks to look a lot more dynamic this year. Fournier, yes, they overpaid, but I understand why they did it. And it was this idea of having to stay relevant and possibly being a trade chip down the line. Fournier is doing what Fournier kind of always does. He's a pretty good NBA player. He'll give you 15 a night, but it's just the balance of the Knicks to me just does not look right, and I'm judging that on a lot of it. Julius Randle. What also has been eyebrow raising to me is watching RJ Barrett this season. I really felt Barrett was a player who could have broken out this year, and that just doesn't appear to be the case. He hasn't wowed me in the games I've seen him play. looking at his averages, he's 14 points per game. That kind of surprised me a little bit. And again, I don't watch every Knicks game. The 3-point shot, 31%, not great. He's shooting under, his field goal percentages aren't jumping off the page at me. And, has this affected RJ Barrett, or has he just kind of stagnated? Has he hit a wall? But the Knicks just look out of whack to me. It's not that it doesn't look the same team. And right now, unless Tom Thibodeau figures it out, I know there's been the lineup change. I wouldn't be putting the house on the Knicks making the playoffs unless there's either a change in the backcourt, or how the system perhaps, or if injuries hit another team. The Knicks look like a team who are going to really be battling to get into play-in rather than building on obviously where they were last year. And I hate saying that because I like New York as a place, but then the Knicks just don't look right to me at the minute. Second question, earlier in the week, just browsing through Twitter, watching a couple of videos, and I saw the question posed, has Father Time caught up with LeBron James? LeBron's 36 years old. He's missing more games due to injury this year. And if you judge him by LeBron standards, the answer's probably yes. If you judge him by everybody else in the league standards, please keep in mind that you're dealing with a guy who's still putting up over 25 a game, near 7 assists, close to 6 boards. If that's anybody else not named LeBron James, you're seeing elite level player. And I just really think that the thing with LeBron is that he isn't right now, for my money, a top 3 player in the NBA anymore. I would say that Steph Curry this year has been phenomenal. I would certainly say Giannis on his is Giannis. He's won the MVPs, and then you can start taking your pick after that. I think Jokic doesn't get the respect he deserves, bearing in mind he is the reigning MVP. And then you can start throwing in other players from there. Like I would say, I've left Kevin Durant out. I would put Durant as probably 3rd best, Jokic at 4th, and then you start thinking about maybe where LeBron fits from there. But LeBron has Father Time caught up, perhaps, but let's look at the bigger picture here. He is still a legit all-star. But it is interesting, however, how the COVID rules and regulations seem to be different when it comes to LeBron James. If you lived in Britain, perhaps you'd be a member of the Tory party, LeBron. Sorry, I don't mean that as an insult. The next one, we're quarter of the way through the season, so I thought I would have a look at the All-Star game. So last year, and I'm based on like the original squads here. The original squad stood as Bradley Beal, Kyrie Irving, Kevin Durant, Giannis, Joel Embiid were voted as the starters for the East. Luka, Steph Curry, Kawhi, LeBron, and the Joker were starters for the West. By the way, I'm looking at this in the traditional East versus West format. Can we please just go back to that? Now, the league's very balanced. This whole picks and, picking people on ESPN, etc. I'm not interested in that. Just go back to East and West. Let's get it back to some classic feels. The benches: Jaylen Brown, James Harden, Zach LaVine, Julius Randle, Ben Simmons, Jason Tatum, Nick Vucevic. I don't know why I've tripped over that. I've said that name so many times as a Magic fan. And then for the West, Anthony Davis, Paul George, Dame Lillard, Donovan Mitchell, Rudy Gobert, Chris Paul, and Zion. So that was the squads last year. And I think there's some obvious people who you think they're probably not going. You kind of put them in right now as all-stars. And it's obvious for really health reasons. So you've got to take Zion out. You've got to take Kawhi out. You've got to take Kyrie Irving out. If I was a Nets fan right now, I would be absolutely sick, because the Nets for me are not a contender, even though we're the placed in the league, unless you add Kyrie in there. No surprises. I would take Julius Randle out, and that's based purely on what I've covered earlier on in this video. And again, Ben Simmons, you can't have Ben Simmons in there. So who would I put in? Right, so remember, the West has got 2 open slots, obviously, for me. And the answers would be Devin Booker, who I think's in the MVP conversation. Yes, he's got a hamstring pull at the minute. I hope it's not too bad, because he's on my fantasy team. But I would put Devin Booker in there. I think he's, basically found himself again, picked up, following on from the playoffs last season. You've got to put him in there. He's one of the faces of the league now. And the other player I'm putting in, would be Ja Morant, which is kind of a bit of a funny one because it was always seen as the Zion draft, and then I'm replacing him with the guy who more people are talking about now, Ja Morant. Face of the Grizzlies. Some people are saying he should be most improved player. I already think he took that leap last year, but fair enough. Um, and I think he's putting up just serious all-star numbers. You struggle to get a Ja Morant jersey in the UK. It shows what his influence is, transcending outside of the USA, outside of Memphis. In the East, then, we've got 3 slots, and I've got 4 names. The top name's Trae Young. Trae Young is very much the Eastern Conference equivalent, a lot younger. He isn't on that level yet, but you can see where he's bringing that like Steph Light vibes to it. He's carried the Hawks. He's brought them back to relevance. His numbers are up there again this season. Trae Young has to go to the All-Star game this year, and for my money, Trae Young has to start at the All-Star game this year for nothing else other than the fact that he's a scorer, and I want entertaining. Right, that then leaves 3 names for 2 slots, and the 3 names are as follows: LaMelo Ball, and I would say that based on how LaMelo has done this season, he's just carried on and improved since the rookie year, but more importantly, how Charlotte have done this season. So LaMelo's in there for me as a name. And then it comes down to DeMar DeRozan or Jimmy Butler. And I don't know which way to jump on that because for my money, DeMar DeRozan has been, to be honest, deserves to be in the MVP conversation this season. He is a big reason, alongside Lonzo Ball, why the Bulls are, where they are right now. But DeRozan, you could argue, has been possibly the Bulls' best player. But then you've got to look at Jimmy Butler. Again, the Heat have had a resurgence, helped by Kyle Lowry coming in. Again, similar to the Bulls, bit of a retool. But there is a case to be made for Jimmy Butler and being the leader of the Miami Heat, one of the elite teams in the East. So that's where we are. We've got 4 players for 3 slots. I'm saying Trae Young has to make it. For entertainment value, I've got to be honest, I want LaMelo in. He's made Charlotte relevant again. And then I think it's a toss-up between DeRozan and Butler. So let me know in the comments, who should it be? Checking in with the Orlando Magic. As you'll know, it's my team. We went 1-1. And we're looking at it, and I think, what have we learned from the recent games? Well, Cole Anthony comes back and the Magic win. If you've watched this channel before, you'll know that I seem to constantly be championing Cole Anthony. But I felt as though what we've learned in we'll say the last few games is that Cole Anthony and Franz Wagner, if you're in any doubts now, if you're building the Magic from the ground up, those are the 2 names that are on your list. I know there was a similar coverage of who would you take on the Orlando Magic UK pod this week with Paul and Mikey. I would certainly recommend that anyone who's a Magic fan or an NBA fan listening tunes into that pod. It's up there. It's elite level for me. And they were saying about the 4 building blocks you would take if you were a Magic fan. And I think that you've got to say the 2 they definitely take are Cole and Franz. Looking at Cole, spoken about him really, but last 10 games, over 20 points, over 7 assists, over 6 rebounds. If he keeps that up over the season, I've said it before, can you make a case for Cole Anthony as a most improved player, even though it's his 2nd year, which some would argue against? Look, it's a 50. He was picked 15th in the draft. Those are elite numbers for a 2nd-year player. He's been in a tough spot. I saw Greg Anthony, his father, have his say on Twitter. I don't disagree with him really. He had his stock dropped due to what happened when he was at possibly one of the worst UNC teams of all time. But Cole Anthony's the leader of this team, and he rightly deserves to hear plaudits for it. Franz Wagner, a sleeper in the draft. A lot of Magic fans raised eyebrows, including me. I was very much on the Alperen Sengun bus. But last 5 games, I think Wagner's taken that leap of the next step on the rookie journey. And his last 5 games, over 17 points a game, over 4 assists, over 5 rebounds. His all-round game's coming on. I'm looking at Wagner, and it's hard for me not to look at it and go, this guy, if he keeps going at this rate, a couple of years' time, he's going to be an all-star. If you haven't watched many Orlando Magic games, do yourself a favour, tune in, and watch Wagner and Cole Anthony, because if nothing else, it's exciting. And the difference between this and the Hennigan rebuild is you can see legit blocks there. Two for me that are obvious, which we've already said, are Cole and Franz Wagner, and then that's not even taking into account Suggs, Isaac, Fultz, Bamba, Wendell Carter, Chuma, RJ Hampton. There's a lot going on, but I think the two rock solid foundations of the Magic are Cole Anthony, who's the leader, and Franz Wagner, who has been elite. So, last thing I wanted to talk about today is the 2020 rookie versus 2021 rookie versus sophomore teams. And I want to see this come back. I know there's going to be restrictions and such. I don't know how it's going to affect the All-Star game, but I used to always love an All-Star weekend, rookie versus sophomore, right? I think the 2020 rookie class got a lot of disrespect. Now, what I've done is I haven't looked at this as position. I've looked at this just simply as 10 best players right now from the East versus the 10 best players from the East. Sorry, the 10 best players from 2020 versus the 10 best players from the current draft. Okay, now putting together the team, then no surprises. LaMelo Ball would be the headliner alongside Ant-Man, Anthony Edwards. Then I think you've got to say you've got Cole Anthony and Tyrese Halliburton, and Sadiq Bey would be my standout 5 players. After that, I'm looking at Tyrese Maxey, should be in there. He's having a cracking season in Philly. He's doing a better job than Ben Simmons. Desmond Bain, Isaiah Stewart. Now, bearing in mind the injuries to James Wiseman and Patrick Williams, I think you're then talking about maybe he's Quickly from the Knicks and Vassell from the San Antonio Spurs. If Wiseman gets healthy, I think he would force his way onto that list, and I would have put Patrick Williams on there. The player who I think you give the honorary mention to is Precious Achiuwa. I've already been in an earlier video and said I think he was a low-key, really good pickup for a young, he's a retool Raptors team. So the much more championed 2021 team, I think you've got to put Evan Mobley on there. I was delighted to pull his Top Shot rookie moment earlier in the week. If you've seen that video, still haven't quite come down from that. Scotty Barnes, I think those two have set the bar for this year's rookie class. Franz Wagner, no surprises there. Cade Cunningham, he's found his way. Bear in mind the time that was lost due to injury. Cunningham is legit in the conversation now, rightly, as the best player in the draft. I think you've got to respect what Jalen Green's done, even though, it might not have been efficient. He's a young guard playing in a young guard backcourt. These things happen. Jalen Green's in there. So if you think about that just as a starting 5 of Mobley, Barnes, Wagner, Cade, and Jalen Green, that would have been superb. But I think you've also got to shout out Josh Giddey. He just seems to be getting better. I'll not mention Oklahoma's game the other night to Johnny, or perhaps I will next time he's on. But Josh Giddey has, he's been a highlight. He's caught vision's next level. I think Alperen Sengun's got to be in there. I watched the Rockets game. I do get the baby Vucevic vibes from him. Jalen Suggs, has he offensively been what people would have hoped? No. Has it been what it expected? Yes. He's a rookie. He's playing again like Jalen Green in a young backcourt. Defensive level, elite. If you haven't watched Jalen Suggs play, I felt it was coming together before he fractured his thumb. He's going to be out a little bit, but Jalen Suggs should be fit for All-Star Weekend. He deserves it. He has still been a top 10 rookie in the league. And then I would round the team out with Davion Mitchell and Chris Duarte, which he's had a really solid production level with the Indiana Pacers this year, and I can't get my head around what's going on there either. So that's it for this week. If you've watched the video, many thanks. If you could drop a like, that would be appreciated. If you want to hop in the comments section based on anything I've said, please bear in mind it's not said out of malice, it's just what I've seen. And I hope your weather is a lot better than the weather in the northeast of England where the roads are flooded. So have a great start of the week and a great end of your weekend.